Welcome back to the Diagon Podcast, a tabletop role-playing game podcast and renowned audio blog. I'm your Game Master, Josiah, and with me, as always, is the player,
William.
Where we had last left off, just been yelled at by his boss to get his ass up to the higher wards.
Relatable.
Very. So, you have two ways of getting to the higher wards. The fastest way, and the one you like the least, is you take your cruiser and you basically go up the station from the outside. So you take a short trip through space. You don't like it, you are bad at, as it says on your sheet, bad at astropiloting. It makes you queasy. The other option is to basically walk over to an elevator and go up. It's much slower, but it's your preferred method.
I'm looking for where it says bad at.
Astropiloting, you have a -1 in it, right above brawling.
Okay, I was not looking there. So my two options is to astropilot for a shortcut or basically go to the elevator system.
Yes.
For the astropiloting, what kind of score do I need to roll to succeed?
For this one, you won't need to roll anything. As far as you know, you're not going to get shot at or anything. So that's really just for under pressure.
Okay. So since my boss called, I'm going to go ahead and do that then.
All right. You take it up and you get filled in with details on the way. You're to get to Driscoll Akeley's estate. He's been murdered. Driscoll Akeley is the man who owns the corporation you heard about last time that was up for a new bid on the city supply contract.
So Distro, he owns the corporation that's going to get the new bid, or was up for it.
He's the one who had the existing bid.
Okay.
Now that you've heard that name, if you want, you can make a reasoning. We'll use street talk for gossip just to see what you've heard about him.
Okay, so that's a total +6. Wow, 16 total.
All right, that's pretty good. So the main things you've heard, he's in a messy divorce with his wife. His son is a hedonist, and based on what your underground friends have said, he probably has a lot of gambling debts. There's been pirate attacks on his shipping routes, and let's see, he was in conflict with the miners' union.
Okay, the miner union, I'm assuming, is going to be he's directly tied to just through the bid. Right?
Basically. So whoever gets the bid is probably going to be the person who gets to do business with the miners' union.
Okay. So single, son isn't great, conflict with the union that he
isn't single yet. He's in the process of the divorce.
Okay, process of divorce. Is there anything else?
Those are the things you've heard. It stands to reason there's probably more.
Is he human?
Yes.
Okay.
As is his wife and son.
Not that it matters right now, but are there hybrid species, humans mixed with others?
There are some humans that have mixed with some aliens, but they tend to be fairly similar still. So there's not going to be any that mix with your species. It's just too far apart.
Right.
So you get to the Akeley estate. There's several more police. They've put up various... It's not tape, it's holographic, but it serves the same purpose. Crime scene, do not enter.
So how big is the Akeley estate?
It's pretty big. Think like a mafia mansion. Your boss is there. He's sort of fending off reporters, and he sees you and basically points inside and gestures for one of the other officers there to take you in.
Okay, so I'm going to follow the other officer.
He walks you in and takes you. It's in past the entryway into sort of a pool hall, and the body is laying there in a chair. It's very obvious right away how he died. His head is suffering from a bullet wound, and there's a pistol right there on the floor.
Okay.
Right beside him.
I'm going to glove up.
All right.
I have my own standard issue 4 gloves per disposal device.
I like to imagine they're just 3D printed when you need them.
Oh, that'd be dope. Okay, so I take out my standard police issue portable 3D printer, get my 3 gloves, put them on, and who else is there? Is there any other police officers that I would recognize?
Make a awareness bureaucracy check. Finally, I get to have someone roll bureaucracy.
Okay, so a total of +5 to my roll. And I don't know what happened, but I'm lucky today. 14.
All right. Yeah, you recognize you've got forensics is already on the scene. You've probably worked with this guy a few times. Let's see. You might know his name. Let's make one. His name is Ellis Upham. He's competent is mostly what you know about him.
Is Upham a human?
Yes, sort of an older guy. He's been around probably as long as you have on the force.
So I go up to him and I say, so what do we have here?
A whole lot of jack shit, he says. I already had my drone scan the gun, but whoever did this didn't leave any prints. Got no DNA on it.
So there's no suspicion of this being a suicide attempt, or not attempt, but a suicide.
As you say that, your boss trundles in and he says, got 24 hours to figure that out. We suspect foul play, but if you don't find anything, we're going to rule it a suicide and move on. We can't afford to have this stay in the public eye for long.
Okay, we'll get right on this and we'll figure out what really happened.
Says, putting any 2 men you choose under your disposal for the rest of this investigation. So basically, in game terms, that means if at any time you feel like, oh, I need supplies, but I don't want to stop what I'm doing to go get supplies, or I want someone to follow up on this minor lead, or whatever, you can radio that in and get them to do it, or you can just have them follow you if you just want extra guns.
But we don't need to really build characters around them. They're just assistants as needed.
No.
Okay.
Just guys.
Just a couple, I'm assuming humans, right?
Probably. You could request non-humans if you wanted to. That's up to you.
I'm just curious. Okay, so I go up to Upham and I ask, what else can he tell me about what's happened?
He says, well, I suspect this isn't a suicide, just based on how things are laid out here. He kneels down next to the gun. He says, if you look here, it doesn't look like this fell. It looks like it was placed. And gestures to the carpet and how it's disturbed.
Is this gun one that was 3D printed, so there's no serial number, no way to trace it?
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Unless you're on a very select number of planets, there's just no way to control that stuff anymore. So there's just no attempts to even.
How common is it for someone to own a 3D printer that can make a gun?
Very.
Okay. So it's not even like oh yeah, you kind of have to know somebody or go to a factory that has the facilities for it. It's just a thing most people have in their living room.
Yeah, lots of people have them, and even if they don't have them themselves, you could go to any number of, like, basically vending machines.
I'm going to assume the answer to this probably is going to be pretty similar, but the material that we use for 3D printing, none of that can be traced, right? Like there's no obvious, like, oh yeah, this material.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start interviewing some people and see if we can clear up this mud.
He nods and gets back to sort of investigating the scene. He says, I'll contact you if anything turns up here.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. Talk to you later.
All right, so who are you going to try and get in contact with first?
I want to talk with the would-be divorcee, so the wife.
So you can pull up her details pretty quickly. She lives 1 level down.
Anything interesting come up from looking her up?
Make a awareness investigation.
Okay, so that's a +7 for me. 15 total.
You find that in a lot of news stories, she's quoted as saying, I'd be happy if he was dead, that sort of thing. It was not a friendly divorce by any means. You also pick up that she doesn't like her son, the hedonist, and also that as of right now, she would stand to gain most of his fortune because the divorce has not gone through.
How long have they been living separately enough for her to be on a completely different level?
A few months at this point.
Okay. And they're affluent enough to where this would have been a very public thing?
Yes. This is like the CEO of ExxonMobil or something. Very big.
So I'm just going to start heading to that address then.
Do you have anything you're sending your 2 guys off to do?
I think I want them both to hunt down their son, check up on him, and then radio me if anything interesting comes from it.
Do you want them to talk to him or just observe?
Let's just observe for now.
Okay, so they're going to stake out, basically. You get to her place. It's more modest, still upscale, but within the realm of, like, someone who just makes good money.
Did she grow up a working person or?
From your research, her family was working class and she had success in film.
Oh, okay. So she's an actress?
Yes, or she was. She moved on from acting to directing and then retired after getting married.
How old is she?
40s. She hasn't been married very long.
How old's their son?
I think I misphrased this. It's not their son.
Oh.
It's the husband's son.
Okay.
So she's the stepmother.
I was about to say, because you're like, oh, they haven't been married long. I'm like, this kid's old enough to be a problem. They better have been together long enough.
Yeah, no, the son is in his 20s.
Okay. And they don't have any kids together?
No.
Okay. So I'm at her house.
Yes. And there's already a paparazzi trying to get in.
Okay. So I'm going to get my badge ready and just push them aside and get in there.
Make an, I'm going to call it influence bureaucracy roll to get this reporter out of the way without incident.
Okay. So that's a +3. Let's see if I can keep up the streak of not shitty rolls. Yeah. 12.
So you managed to official police business him.
Do I recognize him? Do I recognize this reporter?
Does your guy pay attention to reporters?
I think he pays attention to people that keep on showing up. So if it's a guy that reports often.
I feel like he's more of like a celebrity reporter. You get more usually of the shock
News.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't recognize the guy, but he doesn't give me issues, so he's on my decent human list for now.
Since you've used the term police already, she opens the door and lets you in, dabbing away at her eyes with a handkerchief.
Am I getting the sense that she's pretending to be distraught?
That'll be an awareness investigation check.
Ooh, I'm really good at this. 7? Okay, that is a 16.
So, yeah, those are obviously fake tears. You think she's been out of the acting game too long.
Well,
she is not distraught in the slightest.
Well, Miss Ackley, you can stop with the crocodile tears.
And she acts offended. Crocodile tears. Why? I'm torn up about this. This is terrible. We may not have been on the best of terms, but I certainly never wished death on him, which you know is not true based on all the headlines you read on the way over.
Well, here's the thing, Miss Ackley. Despite my appearance, I actually like listening to human gossip, so yeah. You guys weren't on good terms at all. So if it's true that you have no ill will towards him, then I'll appreciate all the assistance that you are willing to offer.
She sort of bristles at some of your subtle accusation there, but she goes, yes, of course. You'll have all the assistance I can give, officer. And she sort of guides you into like a sitting room, and the tables next to each chair serve up drinks.
You got any coffee?
I'm going to roll to see if she knows that that would get you drunk. She says, certainly. And basically you put your glass back on the table and it swaps it out for a mug of coffee.
Just to be clear, I'm not going to drink it. I just want to smell it.
Oh yeah, with your poor sense of smell. Make an awareness check just to see if you can actually distinguish it from your usual fare.
Just awareness?
Yeah, with a -1 because you have poor smell.
-1? Okay. It's a total of 12.
At 12, you can tell that there's definitely a lot more refinement to this. You know that the stuff you get at Mix is pretty cheap, and this is definitely higher class.
Okay, so I tell Miss Ackley, do you know which planet this coffee's from?
She says, oh, I couldn't possibly say. I hardly touch the stuff. I just keep it for guests.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to at some point figure that out. But on to the more important things. Your husband, do you know of any people he was having conflicts with the union, the minor union by chance?
You bring up the minor union specifically?
Yeah.
So I want you to make an influence interrogation check.
Okay, so that's a total +4. All right, first not so great roll of the night. So that's a 8 total.
Do you want to, you could spend, I think, 3 experience to add a die. What you'll get from this roll is not her giving you an answer or not, but you knowing whether or not she's telling the truth.
You know what, let's do it. Let's use my 3 XP for another dice. Okay, that's a 6 on that dice.
All right, nice. So that's 14. So you get the sense that she's going to say something else, but then she sort of slumps slightly and says, yes, he's been dealing with a man, well, I say a man, alien like yourself. The fact that she calls you an alien says a lot about her in this case.
Do most other species consider being called alien offensive?
It's not necessarily considered offensive, but it's very much there's us and then there's you.
Okay.
It'd be like saying someone was from out of town.
But with a huge negative.
It's impolite.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways, what was she going to say?
So, name is Coney. I didn't get in the middle of those negotiations myself, but I was under the impression they were going rather poorly.
Tony or Coney?
Coney. I will type it in chat. Did you get her name? I can't remember.
No, I just been calling her Miss Ackley.
Her name's Catherine, so you would know that. So
right. Okay. So Coney is Who in the miners union? Is he the head?
My understanding is he's just responsible for negotiations in this area.
How long ago was it when you saw this conflict between them?
Oh, I think it would have been just a few weeks ago, the last time we had to meet in person. I caught the tail end of their argument. Coney was quite upset.
Did you hear at the very end what was said?
Let's see. I'm going to want another influence interrogation check here.
Okay, +4. Ooh, I just got 2 ones, so that did not work out for me.
So she says, I can't say that I did, and you aren't really sure whether or not that's the truth.
Do you by chance have a last name for Coney?
My understanding is your species doesn't use last names. Rather inconvenient for the rest of us.
And in my head, I'm thinking, well, go fuck yourself. Oh, okay, and
This is why you get sent to HR all the time.
all right, Catherine. Appreciate this information. How's things going on with your husband and his son?
You pretty easily catch the grimace that crosses her face briefly before she tries to sell it back into that plastic smile she's been maintaining. She says, Oh, Dalton is, I'm sure, doing just fine. Driscoll simply loved to fund his escapades.
Do you have an address for Dalton?
She says, Certainly. And she forwards it to your contact so you can pull it up whenever.
Okay. Is there anything that I need to know about their relationship? Do they have a decent father-son relationship, or is that not so great?
Make another influence interrogation check here.
Okay. +4, 16.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So her face seems to drop the smile, and she says, If you must know, Dalton is a bit of a nasty young man, and he was always pressuring his father for more money. Their arguments got quite heated. You can tell that she is telling the truth, but also that she is playing this up a bit, that she dislikes Dalton.
How old was he when you first met him?
Which one, Driscoll or Dalton?
Dalton.
Dalton. He's already 20.
How old is he now?
He's now 22. They only married for basically 2 years.
Okay. Is Dalton's mom still alive?
You're asking her this?
I think this is something I would know beforehand.
You think you would have looked it up on the way? Make a reasoning investigation to see how well you did at checking Dalton's background on the way.
Reasoning, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, reasoning, so that's +7. 18.
So, yeah, the mother is deceased. You didn't find any details on how that happened, but for the most part, he was raised just by Driscoll.
Okay. That would mean, is there a year? Like how long it's been?
She died when he was 3.
Oh, wow. So I say, all right, Miss Ackley, I appreciate the information. Please keep in touch if anything comes to mind, and we'll get back to you if we have any more questions.
She says, Of course, I'll do whatever I can to help, officer. And you get, without even needing to roll, the very strongest impression that she just wants you out of her house.
Do I get the sense, though, it's more because I'm a bug, or is it just this is kind of how she is to everybody?
More just she finds you to be a nuisance.
I'm going to go ahead and leave, get to my cop car. So I'm going to go ahead and sit in there, and then I'm going to radio the other guys.
All right, so they'll give you their update, which is that he's been basically hanging out at sort of a half bar, half casino kind of place, and doesn't seem to be out of the ordinary for his reputation. He's spending his money frivolously.
Does he look at all sad about his father passing?
No, you aren't sure whether or not he's heard, or if he's in a state where he could understand if he had.
Okay, then I'm going to drive up to that casino. I'm going to ask one of the guys to stay there to be my backup, and I'm going to ask the other guy to go ahead and look up everything we need to know about this Coney guy for the minor union.
All right, so the way that'll work is when you need the information, I'll have you roll for it, but it just means you won't have to spend any time on it.
Right.
All right, are you going to have the guy that you're having come in for backup go with you or wait outside?
I want him to stay there and keep eyes on him.
All right, so outside.
Yeah.
So you enter, smell of liquor and possibly illicit substances hits you despite your poor sense of smell.
Do I recognize any of them?
You probably recognize that most of these are sort of what are generally considered to be harmless hallucinogens. They're not ones that you're going to get high off of by smelling them.
Okay. It's a big thing that I want to know, is this kind of the normal, what you would expect people to be doing?
Yeah, it's one of those things where technically you could bring people in for using some of this stuff if you can prove that they had it, but at the same time, generally you don't, because you really look for dealers on this kind of stuff.
Right,
And you
right.
don't really care about users.
Okay. So do I see Delton?
Yes, he's a slightly overweight human. He's sort of lounging in one of those like round booth seats. He has an assortment of human and alien women listening to him as he tells some wild story. And he buys an excessive amount of drinks and whatnot for everyone at the table. Make an awareness check.
Okay, just awareness is going to be a 4. 10.
You notice that not everyone in the bar is so relaxed, but beyond that, you don't quite pick up on it.
Okay. So if I listen into the story that he's telling, what am I hearing?
It's mostly that he's claiming that he's been a space pirate and that he's done all these crazy stunts. And it's the sort of nonsense that people claim if they want to sound like cool and mysterious people.
Okay. So how many people are there? I know you said his table's surrounded by alien women and humans, but how many?
He's got 6 at the table, excluding him, so 7 total.
Okay. I'm just going to walk up to that table and flash my badge and say, "Excuse me, ladies, but I need to talk with Dalton."
Make a influence bureaucracy check just to see how they react.
Okay. So that's going to be a +3. That's a 12.
12. A few of them shoot you nasty looks, but they all sort of get up and out of the booth, scatter to go try some other people, basically. Do you sit at the booth? He looks annoyed at this, but not to the point of saying anything about it yet.
Okay. So Delton, do you know why I'm here?
To ruin a perfectly good night, I imagine.
Yeah, that's what they would say. So no one's talked with you yet?
Aside from those lovely ladies you ran off, I can't say that anyone has.
Okay, Delton, what's the most surprising thing you think I could tell you right now?
And he sort of ruminates for a moment. He says, "You're here to tell me that I've never been rich and I've just been drugged out of my mind."
Well, I got one a little bit more interesting than that. Someone killed your dad.
I want you to make just a flat influence roll just to see how that delivery landed.
+2. That's a 7.
So he sort of just leans back and laughs a little. I'm just so shocked. Who would ever want to kill such a upstanding member of the community?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Dalton. First thing I'm going to ask you, are you on something right now?
Even without asking, as someone who's worked in Vice for a considerable amount of time, you can basically already tell that he is. Beyond the fact that his pupils are fairly dilated, there's also just paraphernalia in front of him. So he says, "No."
So am I allowed, would it be frowned upon for me to get him into my cop car and take him to the station?
He's committing illegal acts right now. You can arrest him for that. You can also bring him in for questioning if you think he's obstructing your investigation. But doing that without another cause opens you up to more problems.
But would the fact that he's on stuff be enough to justify it?
The fact that he's obviously on something is going to be enough for you to bring him in if you want. It would be out of the ordinary in terms of actually arresting someone for using these, but it would not be out of the ordinary to use it as a pretext to bring someone in.
Okay, then I'm going to tell him. So we could do this the easy way or the not easy way. You're coming to the station with me for 1, so you can get a detox, and 2, so we can continue our conversation.
I'd like you to make an awareness roll for me.
Just awareness?
Yep.
That is a total 11.
You notice with your compound eyes some people getting up from the bar and sort of reaching towards their backs.
Are these all humans?
Not all.
So then I look at Delton and say, "Sure you want to go about it this way?"
He sort of laughs and says, "I'm really not the one making decisions here, and I'm going to give you one chance to do something before people finish drawing on you." You can tell Dalton isn't going for a gun or anything. He's just sort of sitting there.
It'd be really funny if my guy just dies here right now.
It would be.
Okay. How many people do I see that are clearly getting ready?
You haven't turned around to look, but just from your compound eyes, what you've picked up, you can see that there's about 3 people who all look fairly rough. And I'd say you can probably guess that if they actually visibly pull, then your guy outside is going to rush in to help you.
Does my guy outside and I have open comms?
I would say probably not because you didn't say so, and you've only been contacting them when you're in your car so far.
Okay. So when it comes down to it, is them pulling guns on me enough for me to defend myself?
Oh, yeah, you can put them down if they draw on you.
So I'm going to go ahead and since I have 4 arms, I'm thinking I'm going to use one arm to grab him and then my other 2 arms to grab my 2 guns and then have a free hand, potentially to use it to keep him under control.
When you grab him, are you trying to move him anywhere?
I'm not trying to use him as a shield, but I'm like, you're going in the cop car, kind of like you're under arrest, kind of putting hands on him, and then just having my other arms with the guns.
All right, so you're just sort of pulling him. He's basically limp in your hands. He doesn't resist or anything. So that means we're going to get to make an awareness check here as we get into initiative with these guys. I'm just going to make a group awareness check for them, and yours will also work for your ally.
So just awareness. Okay. Wow. 15 total.
So you're going to get to go first as they draw their pistols.
Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, boys, there's no need for this. I won't even put you guys through the system for doing what you just did. Just let me and this guy walk out of here and there won't be any problems.
So you're just talking right now?
I have my guns ready, but yes.
Okay, let's see, that'll be influence, and I'll let you use street talk here.
Okay, so that's a total of +4, 11.
I'll just make an opposed roll on their part. So I think seeing that you've got your guns drawn and noticing the guy on the outside, they reluctantly lower their guns.
And how many were there, you said?
3.
Okay, so I look at all 3 of them. I say, you boys made the right choice tonight. And yeah, have a good rest of it. And I start walking out with Dalton.
They sort of spit on the floor after you, but they don't move to do anything. You throw Dalton in the back of your vehicle, get in with your fellow officer, and you're heading to the station.
So as we go, I look at my fellow officer. I say, thanks for having me in my backpack there. That was, that could have been bad.
He just nods and says, "It's what I'm here for. Doesn't sit right with me letting those creeps go, but you're the detective."
Well, if they show up again, we'll know it. So, and then we'll take care of them. But for now, we have to focus on this, whatever this kid may or may not be involved with his father's death.
And with that, we'll end it there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Welcome everyone to the second episode of our coffee-loving, crime-solving detective bug, Corva. The more we learn about the Ankley case, the closer Corva gets to discovering the truth. We at the Daigen podcast love to hear your thoughts, so please leave your comment wherever you're tuning in from. Don't forget to follow us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for the next episode. See ya.
His what?
Escapades.
Okay. The audio from Discord, I heard his aides. I'm like, what?
Well, at this point, probably. Let's be real.